It is this alien creature that's got 8 arms and 2 slashing tentacles writhing around, and a parrot beak that rips flesh, and an eye that's as big as your head. I mean, what science fiction writer wouldn't just love it?
For a long time, the baby Kraken was just a story people told about the deep sea. It was thought to be a small creature that hides far below the ocean where no one can see it. But now, things have changed. A first live video has been found, and what it shows is shocking. Scientists expected something small and weak. Instead, they are seeing something that is already much bigger and more active than they thought. It moves on its own, reacts quickly, and seems to be learning.
Okay, so this is
Oh my God!
Scientists only made 6 sightings, but believe there could be millions of the creatures lurking in the mysteries of the deep.
And the scariest part is, it is still growing fast. So what will it become when it is fully grown? Join us in this video as we discuss the details. First, live video of the baby Kraken reveals how big it is. For hundreds of years, people told stories about giant monsters hiding deep beneath the sea. Sailors spoke of huge creatures with long arms rising from dark waters, wrapping around ships and dragging them below. These stories became legends like the Kraken, a terrifying sea beast said to live in the cold northern oceans. In the deep oceans of Earth, there really were giant squid, massive animals with huge eyes, long tentacles, and bodies built for survival in darkness existed far below the surface. One species became especially mysterious, the colossal squid. The colossal squid lives in the freezing waters around Antarctica, in one of the most remote and least explored environments on Earth. It is not the same as the better-known giant squid. While giant squid are longer, colossal squid are heavier, thicker, and more powerful. By body mass, the colossal squid is the largest invertebrate on the planet. This means that among all animals without backbones, none is heavier. Yet for most of modern history, no one had ever truly seen one alive. The species first entered scientific knowledge in 1925, when strange remains were found inside the stomach of a sperm whale near the South Shetland Islands. A scientist studying the damaged arms noticed something unusual. Instead of ordinary suction cups like most squid, these arms had sharp, rotating hooks. This was enough to prove that the remains belonged to a completely different kind of squid. The species was named Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, later commonly called the colossal squid. This was a major discovery, but it came with a strange problem. Scientists now knew the animal existed, but they still had almost no idea what it was actually like in life. For the next 100 years, nearly everything learned about colossal squid came from dead bodies. Some were caught accidentally by deep-sea fishing lines. Others washed ashore in Antarctic regions. Some were found in the stomachs of sperm whales, their main predators. But every specimen had the same limitation. It was dead, damaged, and often badly distorted. This created a huge scientific mystery. Dead animals can reveal anatomy, but they cannot show behavior. Scientists could measure body parts, study hooks, examine eyes, and estimate weight. But they could not answer basic questions. How did colossal squid move? Were they slow hunters waiting in darkness, or active predators chasing prey? What color were they when alive? How did the young colossal squid look? How did they defend themselves? Without living observation, experts were forced to make educated guesses. Many believed colossal squid were sluggish ambush predators because of their huge size and heavy bodies. Some imagined them drifting slowly through deep water, conserving energy while waiting for prey. Their massive hooks suggested they were deadly hunters, but no one had ever seen those hooks in action. Their eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom, were also a mystery. Scientists knew they were enormous, sometimes reaching the size of dinner plates, but understanding why they evolved that way required theory rather than proof. Meanwhile, sperm whales provided disturbing clues. Many sperm whales carried circular scars on their skin, signs of violent battles fought deep underwater. These scars matched the hook patterns of colossal squid. It became clear that in the darkness of the Southern Ocean, giant predators were fighting each other far below human sight. Sperm whales hunted colossal squid, and colossal squid fought back with rotating blades attached to their arms. These deep-sea struggles had likely been happening for millions of years, hidden beneath ice-cold waves. The colossal squid's habitat made direct study extremely difficult. The Southern Ocean is harsh, remote, and dangerous. Freezing temperatures, powerful storms, and deep icy waters make exploration expensive and rare. Unlike many other marine species, colossal squid do not live near populated coastlines or commonly explored seas. They exist in a place where human presence is minimal. This isolation allowed the colossal squid to remain one of biology's greatest unanswered questions. Even as technology improved, live observation remained impossible. Cameras explored deeper waters. Research vessels became more advanced. Yet the colossal squid remained unseen. It was almost like a ghost of science, known from remains but never from life. This strange gap between discovery and observation became one of the longest in zoological history. For a full century after its naming, no scientist, explorer, or camera had captured a living colossal squid in its natural environment. It was an animal known mostly from corpses, and that absence created a powerful image in the public mind. The colossal squid became something almost mythical again, a real creature that still felt like legend. People knew it existed, but without seeing it alive, imagination filled the gaps. Then, after 100 years of waiting, that changed. A single moment in deep Antarctic waters would finally allow humanity to look directly at one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. For the first time, the colossal squid would no longer be defined only by dead remains and scientific theory. The monster no one had truly seen was about to move before human eyes. After 100 years of dead specimens, broken remains, and unanswered questions, what would happen when humanity finally came face to face with a living colossal squid? Let's delve deeper. The first living colossal squid changed everything. In March 2025, one routine deep-sea expedition changed marine biology forever. A research vessel exploring the Southern Ocean near the South Sandwich Islands was conducting a standard scientific dive. The mission was not focused on finding colossal squid. Scientists were studying deep sea life more broadly, using advanced, remotely operated technology to observe underwater ecosystems. Then, something extraordinary appeared on camera. For the first time in recorded history, a living colossal squid entered human view. The animal was not a giant adult monster rising from darkness, but a juvenile. It was young, much smaller than a full-grown colossal squid, with a mantle length of about 30 centimeters. Yet despite its smaller size, the sighting was revolutionary. This was the first confirmed live observation of the species. The first surprise was its appearance. Rather than dark red or brown like preserved adult specimens, the young colossal squid was nearly transparent. Its body looked glass-like, delicate, and almost unreal. Light passed through its tissues, revealing internal structures in ways never seen before. Scientists had suspected young colossal squid might share traits with glass squids, but seeing this in a living animal was completely different from theoretical knowledge. The transparency changed understanding of the species' early life stage immediately. The second major revelation was movement. For decades, many believed colossal squid were slow and heavy. Their size had encouraged the idea that they were lumbering ambush predators. But the live juvenile moved with grace, speed, and surprising agility. Its fins undulated smoothly. Its body used jet propulsion with clear coordination. Its arms and tentacles adjusted with precision. Instead of appearing clumsy, it looked highly capable. This forced scientists to rethink earlier assumptions. If juveniles were this active, perhaps the species as a whole was more dynamic than once believed. The third breakthrough involved the hooks. For the first time, researchers saw the famous rotating hooks functioning in life. These hooks were not passive structures, they moved with purpose, confirming they were highly specialized tools for gripping prey and defense. What had once been anatomical speculation became direct evidence. This transformed understanding of how colossal squid survive in one of Earth's harshest environments. The sighting also renewed questions about growth. If this transparent juvenile would eventually mature into the massive adults previously recovered, then colossal squid development may be more complex than scientists thought. Some experts began reconsidering earlier size limits, suggesting that adults may grow larger than previously estimated, possibly far larger. The sighting also highlighted the importance of colossal squid eyes. These enormous organs, the largest known in the animal kingdom, are believed to help detect predators such as sperm whales. In deep water, bioluminescent organisms create faint light. A large approaching predator can disturb this light field, effectively creating a glowing warning signal. Massive eyes may help colossal squid detect danger sooner. This means the colossal squid is not simply a hunter. It is also prey, shaped by an ancient arms race with sperm whales. The encounter answered many questions, but it also created new ones. The biggest lesson was simple: humanity still knows very little. The Southern Ocean remains one of Earth's least explored ecosystems. Millions of square kilometers of cold, deep water remain largely unseen. If one accidental dive could reveal such an extraordinary animal, what else is waiting below? The first live footage of a colossal squid was more than a scientific milestone. It marked the beginning of a new era. For 100 years, this species had been understood mostly through death. Now, at last, it could be studied through life. This shift is profound. A dead specimen can reveal structure, but a living one reveals behavior, movement, color, and survival strategy. It transforms theory into reality. The colossal squid is no longer just a mystery built from fragments. It is now a living species humanity has finally begun to witness directly. What if a kraken didn't begin as a monster of legend? What if it started small enough to rise and dangerous enough to outgrow everything? Let's find out. Raising the baby kraken. The idea began with a question that sounded impossible. Could one of the ocean's most feared legendary creatures be raised like an ordinary pet? At first, the answer seemed surprisingly simple. The baby kraken was small enough to fit inside a reinforced water tank. It did not look like the giant sea monster of old stories. There were no crashing ships, no massive tentacles wrapping around buildings, and no violent storms. Instead, it looked delicate. Its skin was translucent, almost glass-like, allowing faint blue bioluminescent veins to glow beneath the surface. Its tentacles were thin, no thicker than human fingers, and its movements seemed gentle rather than dangerous. In these early days, the creature behaved more like a curious sea animal than a monster. It explored its surroundings carefully. It watched movement in the water. It reached out with soft tentacles, sometimes wrapping them around a wrist or object nearby. These actions did not appear aggressive. They felt investigative, almost affectionate. This calm behavior created a dangerous illusion. For a short time, it was easy to believe the kraken could be controlled. It seemed intelligent, responsive, and manageable. Like many young predators, its harmless appearance disguised what it was becoming. One of the first major discoveries came through careful observation of how the kraken sensed the world. Unlike humans, who depend heavily on sight, the baby kraken responded more strongly to vibration. Movement through water caught its attention more effectively than light. This made sense for a deep-sea species, where darkness often limits vision and sound travels much farther than sight. This meant the kraken was not simply seeing its environment, it was listening to it. Every movement, every ripple, every pulse in the water acted like information. Vibrations became signals. These signals guided its curiosity and behavior. Then came the first serious warning. The kraken's growth rate was extraordinary. Within a single week, it doubled in size. Within 2 weeks, it tripled. Its tank, which had once seemed spacious, quickly became restrictive. Noise insulation and vibration dampeners were introduced. These changes were designed to create safety, but they also revealed something deeper. The real danger was not just size, it was stimulation. A critical mistake exposed this truth. Low-frequency bass music was played near the tank. To a human, it was only sound. To the kraken, it was something entirely different. The response was immediate. Every tentacle snapped toward the source of vibration. The creature locked onto the speaker with total focus. The reinforced tank did not shatter, but it visibly flexed under the force. This was not random movement. It was directed behavior. The Kraken was not frightened. It was responding. That moment changed everything researchers thought they understood. Food was not the only thing driving development. Sound, especially low vibration, appeared to stimulate the Kraken in powerful ways. Signal mattered. Rhythm mattered. Resonance mattered. The implications were enormous. The ocean is filled with vibration. Waves crash. Currents move. Ships hum. Engines pulse. Whale songs travel for miles. If the Kraken was biologically designed to respond to signal, then the world itself could shape its growth and movement. This transformed the experiment from simple pet care into a dangerous biological challenge. The Kraken continued growing rapidly, soon becoming too large for indoor containment. Standard tanks were no longer realistic. A larger, more secure environment had to be built. This led to the construction of a coastal containment pool. The pool was designed with reinforced steel walls, acoustic dampeners, and shock-absorbing foundations. It was far larger than the original tank and specifically engineered to reduce outside vibration. For a brief period, this solution seemed effective. The Kraken had more room. The structure held. Safety appeared restored. But the problem had not been solved. It had only been delayed. Human civilization is loud, even when people do not realize it. Harbors vibrate constantly. Engines rumble beneath waves. Distant ships create deep, steady pulses that travel across water. And the Kraken was always listening. The experiment was beginning to reveal an unavoidable truth. Raising a Kraken was not simply about feeding or housing it. It was about controlling an animal connected to the entire acoustic map of the ocean. That may have been possible in a small tank, but as the creature grew, the challenge was no longer just containment. It was the world itself. As the Kraken grows beyond control and the world around it begins to respond to its signals, what happens when containment is no longer possible? Let's learn more. When the world became too loud. The coastal containment pool was humanity's next attempt to keep the growing Kraken under control. By this stage, the creature was no longer a tiny curiosity. It had become larger, stronger, and far more responsive to the world around it. Reinforced steel barriers, sound dampeners, and shock-absorbing foundations were all designed to solve the central problem discovered during its early development: vibration. For a few days, the system appeared successful. The Kraken remained inside. The pool held. The creature seemed stable. Then civilization made itself known. A cargo ship passed offshore. Its engines produced a deep, low-frequency rumble, the kind humans barely notice after years of industrial life. But underwater, the sound traveled differently. Across the water, through the steel, into the containment zone, the vibration reached the Kraken. The reaction was immediate. The pool water went completely still. This silence was not peace. It was focus. The Kraken had locked onto the signal. Then came movement unlike anything seen before. Water displaced, not splashed. The creature dove with force, responding to the distant vibration like an instinctive command. Moments later, the surrounding harbor erupted into chaos. Mooring lines snapped. Ships tilted. Steel cranes bent. Cargo containers collapsed. Massive tentacles rose from the water with terrifying scale. What made this event so disturbing was not anger. The Kraken was not attacking out of hatred or violence. It was following. To the creature, vibration was information. It was guidance. It was attraction. Human civilization, with its engines, shipping lanes, and endless mechanical activity, was broadcasting signals across the ocean constantly. The harbor was not under attack. It was being answered. This changed the entire understanding of the experiment. The problem was not whether the Kraken could be contained physically. Walls and steel were not enough. The true problem was environmental. The world was too loud. Every passing ship could become a lure. Every industrial coastline could become an accidental beacon. Every city near water represented risk. For perhaps the first time, researchers understood that keeping a Kraken near civilization was fundamentally impossible. This realization forced a final solution. A specialized deep-sea containment facility was contacted. Unlike previous containment systems, this organization understood the real danger, not physical escape, but signal exposure. Their transport requirements were extreme. No music, no radio, no unnecessary engine vibration. Even footsteps near the transport container had to be carefully controlled. The transfer system itself was redesigned around silence. A reinforced transport tank was built using steel walls, acoustic foam, vibration isolation mounts, seawater, and deep sand bedding. The goal was not to overpower the Kraken, it was to give it nothing to hear. For the first time since its capture, the creature became calm. Without competing signals, there was no need to chase, strike, or react. In silence, the Kraken rested. This journey became the quietest and safest phase of the entire project. Eventually, the transport reached a remote, deep water zone far from cities, shipping lanes, or industrial sound. There, the containment gates opened. At first, nothing happened. Then the sand shifted. The Kraken moved downward, not upward. It slipped beneath the sand and water with deliberate ease, vanishing into the deep like it was returning to something ancient and familiar. For the first time, it truly looked natural, not trapped, not dangerous, not destructive, simply home. This final moment revealed the most important lesson of the entire experiment. Some creatures cannot be shaped to fit human life. The Kraken was never meant for tanks, pools, or harbors. Its biology was built for the deep ocean, where vibration forms a living map of survival. Every current, wave, and distant pulse becomes part of its understanding. Trying to domesticate such a creature was not just difficult, it was unnatural. The experiment began with curiosity and control. It ended with humility. Humanity often believes powerful things can be contained with enough technology. But some beings belong to environments too vast, too ancient, and too complex for ownership. The Kraken was one of them. And perhaps the final warning is the simplest. If the sea ever becomes completely still, if the waves stop without reason, and if the water feels like it is waiting, something below may already be listening. If most of what we know about deep-sea creatures comes from limited evidence and centuries of fear-filled stories, what happens when we finally try to separate real science from the legends of the Kraken? Let's take a closer look. The deep-sea mystery that shaped the Kraken legend. The ocean has always been one of the most frightening places for humans. It is extremely wide, very deep, and mostly dark once you go far below the surface. In ancient times, people had very little knowledge about what lived in the sea. They could not see what was happening underwater, and they had no technology to explore it. Because of this, the ocean often felt unknown and uncontrollable. When humans face things they do not understand, they often try to explain them using stories or imagination. This is one of the main reasons sea monster ideas developed in the first place. Strange waves, moving shadows in water, or large sea animals seen from a distance could easily be misunderstood. Over time, fear and curiosity mixed together, and people began to believe that large and dangerous creatures might be living deep in the ocean. Long ago, there were written and spoken stories in Northern Europe about a huge sea creature that looked like a giant squid or octopus. These stories go back many centuries, with some early records appearing around the 1100s. Sailors from Norway, Iceland, and Greenland described a massive sea creature threatening ships. Passed through word of mouth, these stories grew more dramatic, shaping belief in a dangerous ocean monster. Studying deep-sea animals is very difficult even today, and it was almost impossible in the past. Many of the creatures that live in deep water stay far below the surface where sunlight cannot reach. The pressure is extremely high, and the environment is very cold. Because of these conditions, humans could not easily explore these areas for most of history. For a long time, scientists only learned about large sea animals like giant squid from dead bodies or pieces that were found. Some were discovered on beaches, while others were found inside the stomachs of large predators like sperm whales. These whales hunt deep underwater and sometimes bring remains back to the surface. Because scientists could not watch these animals alive in their natural environment, they had to make guesses based on incomplete evidence. Early knowledge about these creatures was limited and often inaccurate. Popular 1800 stories and poems portrayed them as terrifying sea monsters with long tentacles, shaping public fear and imagination about deep-sea animals. Even though real animals like squid and octopuses exist, the fictional versions in literature made them seem much more dangerous and larger than they really are. Over time, the idea of a sea monster became a mix of real animal traits and human imagination. Even with modern science, we still do not know everything about giant deep-sea squid. Only a small number of them have ever been studied closely by scientists. This means that the information we have is based on a limited number of samples. Because of this, it is hard to know their full-size range, behavior, or population numbers. When data is limited, people sometimes make assumptions that may not be completely correct. This leaves room for uncertainty about what these animals are really like in the wild. At the same time, large parts of the deep ocean have never been explored. It is one of the least studied places on Earth. New species are still being discovered, and scientists continue to find organisms that were previously unknown. Because of this, there is still a lot we do not understand about life in the deep sea. It is possible that there are large animals or unusual species that have not yet been seen by humans. If the Kraken is not a real creature, but a mix of fear, imagination, and limited knowledge about the deep ocean, what does that say about how humans understand the unknown parts of our world? Keep watching for more. The Kraken myth, scale, history, and the mystery of the deep ocean. People have tried to estimate how strong a Kraken would need to be in real life. These estimates are based on the force needed to pull a large ship underwater. When scientists and analysts try to calculate this, they suggest that it would need to produce a force equal to hundreds of thousands of kilograms. This level of strength is far beyond anything seen in real ocean animals. Even the largest known squid or whales cannot produce this kind of force. Because of this, the Kraken is understood more as a myth or exaggerated idea rather than a real biological animal. If a creature like this actually lived in the ocean, it would likely have changed human history in major ways. Long ago, people depended on the sea for travel, trade, and exploration. Groups such as the Vikings used ocean routes to move between lands, and later explorers traveled across oceans to discover new places. If a giant sea monster like the Kraken existed, these journeys would have been extremely dangerous. Ships could have been attacked or destroyed, making long-distance sea travel very risky or even impossible in some areas. This could have changed the course of world history by slowing down exploration and trade. Some regions of the world might have remained unknown for much longer, simply because traveling across the ocean would not have been safe. A creature of this size would also need a very large amount of food to survive. In the ocean, this would mean it would have to hunt constantly and eat large quantities of marine life. If such an animal existed, it would likely affect the balance of ocean ecosystems. Fish populations and other sea animals would be impacted because they would be part of its food supply. This could also make the ocean more dangerous for humans who depend on fishing or sea travel. In this way, the presence of such a predator would not only affect individual ships, but could also influence entire marine environments and the way life exists in the sea. From a scientific point of view, there is currently no proof that a Kraken-like creature exists. No known species matches its described size, power, or behavior. Modern marine biology has studied many deep-sea animals, but nothing has been found that comes close to the legendary Kraken. However, scientists do acknowledge that the deep ocean is still not fully explored. Many parts of the sea are extremely deep, dark, and difficult to reach. Because of this, only a small portion of marine life has been directly observed. Large squid species do exist, and they live in deep waters where humans rarely go. Since only a limited number of these animals have been studied, there is still some uncertainty about the full range of life in the deep ocean. This lack of complete information is one reason why stories about sea monsters continue to exist. The Kraken is also understood as more than just a creature in stories. It represents how humans feel about the unknown parts of the world, especially the ocean. For a long time, the deep sea was one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Even today, large areas of it have not been fully explored. Because people cannot easily see or study what is down there, they often imagine what might exist. The Kraken became a symbol of that fear and curiosity. It shows how humans try to explain things they do not understand by creating powerful images in stories. Even though science has not found evidence of such a monster, the idea continues to stay alive because the ocean is still mostly unknown and continues to hide many secrets. What do you think about the legend of the Kraken? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for staying with us as we explored the legend of the Kraken. If this deep dive into the mysteries of the deep ocean kept you engaged, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to watch more stories. See you there.